This video is sponsored by me. Read my original novel, Dance of Frozen Death. Link in the description. Greetings, fellow mortals. I have recently received some terrible news. Continuing their trend of terrible decision making, Warner Bros. Discovery is contemplating remaking the Lord of the Rings movies, or new movies, or whatever. I don't know exactly what they're planning. They're going to be doing a musical or something in there for some godforsaken reason. Either way, it actively makes me sad. Wasn't Rings of Power bad enough? Didn't Amazon minimize Tolkien's work enough? His writing has been done for a long time. We just need to leave that universe alone. Or at the very least, let it have some room to breathe. My God, more Rings of Power is coming. There's a Gollum game coming out. Warner Bros. Announced Our Future Torment and another imminent loss of obscene amounts of money for them. Just give us a break. This is too much interpretation and adaptations of a world which should just be left alone. First, make something good, then give it some room to breathe. After all, how can people miss something if it never goes away?
It's over. Go home.
Franchises just keep going and going and going now. No long breaks or any breaks whatsoever. No room to breathe. If something has made money in the past, you can be sure that executives are going to bring it back, which is weird because we live in the age where there is so much independent content out there. Some of said independent content that I'm interested in right now is The General Sun, a fantasy sci-fi book which just came out. And then there's Another Day at the Office, which is a look at superheroes from the police's perspective. And those are just two examples of many. Plug for my books here, by the way. Read Dance of Frozen Death and Above Heaven. But there is so much variety, and we're seeing the same things over and over and over again in the popular media. Even high-quality entertainment like House of the Dragon is a show based on a popular franchise. Granted, the Game of Thrones show crashed and burned at the end, and George R.R. Martin might not even ever finish his series, so that's depressing. It feels like popular media is dying or stagnant, and in art, stagnation is basically death.
Just let me die! Just let me die! Let me die in peace!
At the very least, companies need to let their established franchises take a break every now and then. How many different versions of the Justice League are we going to get? Is the MCU ever going to get to rest? Will we ever stop getting Middle-earth content now? The same thing could be said with Star Wars and Star Trek. If they want to avoid burnout, they need to let these properties breathe. For the love of God, just give them a few moments not to suck anymore. Although I've heard that the latest season of Picard was good, so I might have to check that out. I don't know. If you want a great example of this, simply look at the new Dead Space game. Dead Space 3 was terrible. So what did they do? They gave the series a chance to rest. People started to miss it because it went away. Then they enrolled a remake, which is the definitive version in terms of gameplay and story. Everything about it was improved. The new and improved product made the fan base excited to experience everything in a new way. There's life in the franchise now. It feels like a miracle, but the solution was pretty simple. Time away plus quality content means a hungry fan base. The goal should always be to leave the audience wanting more. If the audience's biggest complaint of something is that there isn't enough of it, then the entertainment did its job.
What might have happened if we didn't tell everyone about the monster.
About the what?
Another example would be the Avatar franchise, and I mean both of them. Now, I don't particularly like the Blue Alien movies as much as other people. They're not bad, it's just not my thing. Style over substance. But the box office showed that people really wanted more of that franchise. So, good for them. If there's one thing you can give Avatar 2, it gave the first film plenty of room to breathe. People had a chance to miss Pandora. Granted, now the studio is going to be flooding the world with content from that universe now, but the original point still stands. The same thing could be said for the cartoon version of Avatar. There are 4 years between The Last Airbender and The Legend of Korra. Now, I don't particularly like the sequel series, but they still learn the lesson of giving the franchise room to breathe. Live action remakes, other shows, and movies are on the way, and I have mixed feelings about all this. All I can hope is that we get some good quality content out of this whole situation. And if not, we can still enjoy The Last Airbender as one of the best shows ever made. Now, you could argue that you're tired of old properties getting brought back over and over and over again. You might just want some new ideas, and I do too. I just wish that we could get more diverse content, preferably adaptations. The Haunting of Hill House was a great example, and Dune was too. Either adapt new things or properties that never got a good movie to begin with. God knows there are classics which could receive adaptations at this point, but I would bet you $100 that they will never touch Animal Farm though. Or they could do something simple and just simply reach over into video games. Look at how well Arcane, Cyberpunk, and Sonic did. Just treat the properties with respect. It's not that hard. If they did this, the risk is minimal for movies and television shows. They have a guaranteed fan base. Boom, they have replacements for the old franchises while they are guaranteed a source of income. It doesn't feel like it should be all that hard. Are people in charge of this stuff actually thinking things through?
Don't think, Remy!
Because studios are just killing their top moneymakers at this point. Just look at Marvel. I don't know a single truthful soul out there that can look at me and say that the movies and shows haven't had at least a small dip in quality. I won't even be provocative here, but come on. This stuff is overwhelming. I feel stuffed from the superhero content. Give the MCU a few years to breathe, for the love of God. That's something that you can at least give House of the Dragon. Its second season will come out in 2024. There's room to breathe. People can miss it because it's going to go away. They can go back and rewatch the first season. They can crave something new with the same level of quality. Who wants to bet and see if the second season comes out before George R.R. Martin's next book does? How about the third season or the entire show as a whole? Finish the book, George. Lock yourself in a room and don't come out until at least the first draft is finished.
Let me out! Let me out! This is not a dance! I'm begging for help! I'm screaming for help! Please come let me out!
And maybe if they give it a break, Tolkien fans might accept respectable interpretations of his work. But there hasn't really been any new decent content since Return of the King came out. Because I don't think anyone is going to sit here and say that dividing The Hobbit into 3 movies was a good idea. That trilogy fell apart. If Warner Discovery wanted some goodwill, they should do one complete Hobbit movie and then move on. Leave it be. Because there is a law of diminishing return here. There is way too much variety of entertainment out there for people to hold on to the old franchises forever. Eventually, these old series are going to get worn out. So there's 2 options going forward. Either turn up the quality by 10 or give it a break so that there can actually be some new creative juice in these series. Because if you don't do that, then old fans will become apathetic. The opposite of love isn't hate, it's not caring. And eventually the old fans will decide to laugh at the poor offerings and turn their attention elsewhere. Just take Puss in Boots: The Last Wish as a good example of that. It re-energized its franchise and its studio. People are clamoring for a Shrek 5 movie, and they just want DreamWorks movies in general now. All it took was a little bit of break and some new creative juices in the system. Here's the thing about fans, and I mean real fanatics, people that will love a franchise more than I love my dog, and I would kill for my dog. These fans will remain loyal forever as long as you don't turn them away. It reminds me of Rick and Morty. They had the single most rabid fan base ever, and then they just dismissed them. Do you know how much creative people would be willing to do for that type of appreciation, even if it's cringy? And that includes me. I'm trying to build a brand myself here. I'm not trying to hide my writing from the world. But all of these studios and franchises are just taking their fans for granted. That's the worst thing that a creative business could ever do. Always appreciate what you've got, because it could disappear overnight if you treat the fans poorly. So put a pin in your stale projects, move on to new properties, and bring things back right when the fans get hungry for it again. This isn't brain surgery. Why do these companies make it so hard on themselves? Just use common sense.
Still, it's not exactly brain surgery, is it?
But what do you think? Am I completely off base here? Do you want these franchises to continue no matter what? Which series or piece of media do you want to disappear for a while? What brand has been gone for so long that you're ready for it to come back? Please leave a comment down below. I'd love to hear your perspectives. Thank you so much for watching. If you'd like my takes on storytelling, please consider subscribing and liking the video. It would really help me out. Also, please remember that I just released my original novel, Dance of Frozen Death, Book 1 in the Written in Stone series. Link in the description. And my second book, Above Heaven, will be released in May 2023. I hope that you will check them both out. I appreciate you. Do not despair.